A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams. Okay, quiet. Sit down, Sergeant Lee.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
So welcome back to part 2 of day 2 of Driving While Screaming OCFF edition. And tonight we saw 2 films. We saw, well,
5.
I'm sorry, like yes. We saw one, what would you call that?
Compilation.
A compilation of Maya Deren short films.
Right.
And then we saw Lockjaw.
Right. We also saw, that was the other thing that we saw.
That was it. There was only 2.
Those 7 that we saw tonight.
7.
But a lot of them were.
Don't complain. They were shorts.
No, they were shorts. They were shorts.
Beautiful.
Let me ask you this as
Yeah.
we get into like experimental films, and I'm not going to disparage Maya Deren because I think, especially when you get to the Mishis of the afternoon, which is I'm pretty sure how you pronounce it, right? Which if it's not how you pronounce it, that's how you should
be
pronounce it. Good Lord, what's going on here in this traffic in Dallas? Come on, guy. There's no reason to do a U-turn, a legal U-turn right there. So experimental film.
Yeah.
Like, and again, okay, so Maya Deren's doing this in the 40s, and like amazing things in like the 40s and 50s, right? Really, and even like earlier than that. But like the stuff in the 40s was really like, well, like, I mean, it's like that same sort of like, I mean, this kind of, and I hesitate to even like call it surrealist in a way. I mean, I would say it's experimental, right? But I don't think it's quite.
Well, I think it's more serious than some of the like some of the surreal type, or even some of the like Dada short films that preceded it. That she, I think, is clearly influenced by. Right. But it is a more. Sorry, go ahead.
No. My point, I guess, is that there's clear auteurs and directors that are good, and I think you can make a determination of like what is good and what is not. But I do think that it's a teetering like it would be very easy to like. I don't know what I'm trying to really say here. It's like, how do you discern what's good experimental film versus what's bad experimental film?
Right. No, I think that's well, and I think that we kind of talked about this when we talked about stuff like Skinamarink, right? Right. And I mean, especially the short film Heck.
Yes.
Because I think it gets really, really difficult to parse out like what is good and what is like just sort of. Just masturbatory, like right, like student film nonsense, basically. Like, see, where you're just. I mean, but it gets like that with kind of all artwork, right? I mean, especially what I mean is like, especially kind of contemporary art, where the like my kid could do that stuff, right? Or when people say that,
right.
Like, how do you how do you say this is good and this is derivative? Yeah, I think it gets really tough. I mean, I think one thing is like. We have the hindsight of looking back on this stuff, right? And going, okay, this is 1940, 1950. This was pretty innovative, right? For the time, with the limited technology that we have now, or that we had then.
Right, and even the late 20s stuff, which is not necessarily compelling per se, but I would say it's at least it's interesting working with that medium, right?
So like, and that, I mean, that seems so much more kind of like Bauhausian, which is kind of like Kafkaesque.
Very Lynchian
and what it was, but what it was doing with shapes and what it was doing with.
It was pre-Lynchian.
Right. But I mean, I think it's really tough, and I think that.
There's Tweed.
But I think that I think that too often we, writ large, go into experimental stuff, and we're trying to immediately parse out meaning, right?
Right.
Well, this is what this is about.
Right.
And like, I will tell you this. I mean, like, look, if you want me to get into like me-she's of the afternoon and sort of what's going on there, I'm sure I could, but I'd rather not.
Right.
Because I feel like it's such a vibe thing. You just kind of have to let it go.
Right. It's so much better just to let it wash over you, right? And to like...
And just appreciate the images?
Because, right, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think that's obviously the point. I don't think that they're supposed to be... Like, I'm sure that Maya Deren had some sort of... Maybe some sort of like loose narrative that's going on
and some
in her
kind
head.
of ego-driven sort of thing, because
Right.
there's like 4 of her running
Right,
around,
right.
so clearly it's something about her. I mean, like,
Right.
But I do think clearly the knife was a phallic symbol. No, I'm just joking.
Right.
But I mean, all of her films. I really like. Now I'm going to forget the name, but it was the Eye of the Night. What was the Vision of the Eye of the Night, or the?
I think it was just yes.
Something like that. But
yeah.
I really like the choreography in that, because I mean, this is early, almost like Balanchine type ballet choreography. I mean, it's post kind of Isadora Duncan, but like,
Right.
like ballet influenced by modern dance that was coming into its kind of its own at the time. I thought that stuff was just beautiful, and how she plays with, and even though of course everything is in black and white, but how she still plays with kind of these binary oppositions, and how she inverts the colors, the black and white of some of those figures. Yeah, I think it's just really...
What was the one before that was like the transient of timelessness or something? That was something
yeah.
like... That's not it, but that's some... I thought that one... I had not seen that one before.
Right, yeah, I hadn't either.
And I thought the way that she was working with like time, and like the way that she was capturing, especially that male figure who was that's so statuesque.
But also like dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
It was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, like, just the visuals of how she was working with that.
The choreography in that was incredible, too.
Right.
And I don't know who these choreographers were, but...
And so this was all played to a live score as well. So there was 10,000 Lakes was the group, or 2 men that were playing.
Yeah, and it's basically just 10,000 Maniacs kind of rebranded.
Right.
It was the...
And so... Again, that's when we talked about this is an interesting of why and how they did this, and like kind of came to this, and of course we don't get to hear that conversation, but like
right.
And then the music that they chose to score these silent old films to, although they weren't always silent, there were sound, like I mean it felt like maybe there wasn't, and like there.
I don't think there
were no wave. I thought I heard. Maybe I was just projecting.
I think it was just whatever they were doing.
Whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's interesting. I don't necessarily know, like, if I agreed with all of their choices per se.
Yeah, I know.
But that's not for me. Whatever.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not the musician.
But it was cool, though. It was cool to see the live score.
Yes.
With the films.
And they were up on stage playing it. So that was interesting and intriguing, the way that all worked out. It's also interesting that this guy's coming over into my lane
with his trailer, his big trailer.
Unnecessarily so.
Well, you know what? He drives a truck.
That's true.
And this is Texas, sir.
Yeah,
you drive an electric vehicle. Right. But I do want to say, here's something else I want to say about like short films, because I'm not a huge fan of short films.
We've stated this before, right?
But this is what I think. This is what I will go see when it comes to short films. Let me see something experimental. Let me see something that can't sustain a 90-minute narrative, and you're working within that kind of chosen medium. You're trying to do something different. You're trying to push some of the boundaries here. That's what I want a short film to be.
Well,
right?
And also, I think
something different.
Know your limitations, right?
Right.
So often we find that these stories get stretched into, longer forms that don't need that to be the case.
Right.
But something like Skinamarink, or What was I talking to you the other day about? That was like.
Oh, we're talking about the guy that did the surfer.
The guy that did the surfer. His
Finnegan.
Earlier, Nocebo was one of those films that, again, it wouldn't. We think of short films as something like between 15 and probably 20 minutes long. But I mean, that film, could have been 60 and would have been fine, kind of thing. But yes, I'm with you. Like, it's not. And I think that's the problem, though, right? Is that we, running into still that really terrible short film, like that does. I mean, even the experimental pieces, like you run the risk of like, something that would appear on Sprockets on Saturday Night Live.
Right? But at least, I can. Here's the thing: I can get behind that more than I can somebody trying to do a 5-minute narrative thing about a dead spouse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that's where it really runs into.
Right. I'm like, but also in the same breath, if Stan Brackett's tried to make a longer, I couldn't do it.
Right.
I mean, I want shorter Stan Brackett's, not like longer.
Right.
Because then it's just too much. But I think, this kind of runtime, that short film medium is great for trying these different things and being like, I'm going to scratch up the negatives. I'm going to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've also seen a lot of bad short films.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
It's almost it's almost more difficult to make a compelling. I mean, like maybe it is more difficult to make a compelling short film than it is.
But again, but don't you think that part of that problem is that everyone's trying to make a traditional narrative style short film? Sure.
Right. It is a different
you just can't
genre, right? I mean, it is a different. It's a different set of skills to be able to capture and to be able to convey your entire story in a short period of time.
And that's what I find, so compelling about Deren's work is that, and look, I know cinema is about images, right? But she is so focused on just these images and what can these images do? And how much can I pack into the short runtime?
Well, and especially if you're listening and you haven't seen any of her stuff, Meshes of the Afternoon, which is so brilliant.
Yeah.
Because when a film is shot in the 40s and you're watching it today and going, how the fuck did they do that? How they pull that off? It really, really is. That's what's so impressive to me. Of those mirror shots and then the complete change of when the mirror breaks, going back to the beach scenery.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And the repetition.
Yes.
And then the moment where there's 4 of her at a table.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are so good. And to think that it's crazy to me to think she's doing this stuff. She's doing this stuff around the same time as Paramount Film Noir and all this other kind of really mainstay traditional film work. Brilliant.
So the other film we saw tonight was called Lockjaw. It is about a young woman who gets into a drunk driving accident and has her jaw wired shut, and then obviously I think it's about the aftermath of the people around her dealing with kind of someone who has a problem, and then also kind of coming out of their own trauma in regards to that accident as well. And then of course you're in a moment in an instance of where you're with other people that are outsiders that are kind of judging you for that as well.
Right.
It's a very kind of tamed down. I think the director in what she did with the party element of putting was it Maya? Raina, thank you. Because I was thinking anyway, putting Raina in the moment. It was Raina's the main character, who's the girl who has her jaw wired shut. Putting her in that kind of in a bigger budgeted film. This would be where she was bouncing around to people. These would be the main characters, but you'd have a lot more extra people around, still kind of adding commentary. I think she did a really, really good job of compartmentalizing all of that in a way that still felt organic and true to the night that they were all having.
Right.
I will say, I think, and the actress's name, Blue, I didn't get her full name, and we just got out of it. I know that. Right. So, but the girl who plays Raina, the young woman who plays Raina, I think she did an out. I mean, she has to emote, and speak and enunciate with this prosthetic, this dental prosthetic that she has that keeps her mouth wired shut, essentially. I think that is a star-making turn.
Yeah.
And I think that is like, if this film gets any sort of like traction at all, I think she's poised to.
Well, I just think like using this as a look what I can do is enough to get her.
She's got a great look. She's ridiculously compelling in person. Like she was there at the Q&A. She's like, she's so like effervescent.
I'm just gonna say, because we don't want to say bubbly.
Right.
No.
but she just like.
But no, she is charming. She's extremely charming.
And the way that she interacted with her main co-star and her director, and kind of just bouncing back between the two of them there in the Q&A, it just was one of those moments where we're just like, this is someone who, really should like elevate from this. I don't really think anyone else in the film, aside from Nick the Magician, which I think he's been in other things. Like, Nick's his actual name.
Robert.
He plays Robert the Magician in the film. And I think
he was good.
I think he's really good. And I think his wife was good too. I don't think the two main male characters were really like they stand out to me.
Yeah, I think unfortunately they kind of are very similar to other actors we've seen.
Right. And I almost think that having both of them in the film may have been a detriment to the. I don't think you need both of those characters in this movie. I think if you just had one of them, if you just had the love interest. I don't necessarily think that
tension adds anything to the overall story.
Right, because that conflict that because you think that the other male character is also in love with Raina, and he might be. At least that's what it came across to me, is that the other male character might, and it feels like it's a play off the other female character who's obviously in love with Martin or whatever his name is. Mitch is in the movie. But I don't think you need Mitch's friend in the film, because it never really worked for me in regards to like what he brought to the table. Like I know he moved them in, he knew the magician and his wife,
and that's so he's getting them. But
you don't really need that, right?
Yeah.
You could come up with that conceit of why they got and connected with the magician, and Raina's enough of a, she's been kind of constrained for 6 weeks and is now going out again. Like she's enough of a personality that would want to go and engage with these
and wants
people.
To cut loose anywhere she can.
Right, and it could have been a moment of like where she was embarrassed in the bar. She goes with them to the bar, and during the magic show, she's embarrassed, and then she kind of goes back to kind of get revenge. That's why they follow them back home.
Right. Right.
Not to badmouth.
And then it turns into like a home invasion.
Right.
And while they're tied up, they're like, we can't understand what you're saying. What do you want?
And I thought this was a really good film. I don't think this is a great film, and it's not like something that I probably will like. I mean, I definitely will come back to it, but I really had a lot of fun with it. It's really funny. It's really charming. And
I like the more or less one location aspect.
Yeah. I like this one night kind of her. Her journey over a single night in essence. Yeah. And it's so like you're so drawn in. Like the director was talking about how she'd never seen this before. I do think this is a brilliant like plot device. I think this is a brilliant like storytelling moment, especially in this sense where you have this you're putting it on film because it is so compelling. Like you're so drawn in and you're so like narrowed in on what you're paying so much attention so you can get what she's saying. Right. That like it's this weird like almost genius move of like you've got to like really really focus and like live in this story with her. I don't know. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I think it's a smart choice.
Yeah. And I think I do think that this obviously wears its budget on its, you can tell that this is a lower budget film. I think some of the musical cues were low budget musical cues. Like, there's almost a lot of like, almost Kevin Smith and Clerks-esque type, like treacly kind of musical cues. But all in all, I think it was a lot of fun. And it was really funny. And like I wanted to see Raina and Robert the Magician more together.
They were good
because of all of like his interactions of like playing a weird odd straight man to her like not really insanity, but
zany.
like her quirkiness. It was just so funny. The moment where they're in the bathroom together, and he's living in his house. He's in his bathroom, and Raina mistakes that for him
in advance,
right as an advance. And she's like already like broken up with Mitch in a sense, and so she's goes in there to make a pass at him to like screw the and he's like, "What are you doing?" You're like,
my wife is in the next room,
right out there. And I think I like this. I like that there's all of these moments that are like misunderstandings and none of them really play the way a traditional comedy would play them. Like there would be more of a moment where where Raina did kiss Robert or something, or there'd be some sort of like oh shit moment that this movie never
the
does.
Tension never like the tension in the film feels low stakes,
right? Yeah, and I think it really works for it, right? I mean, because I think you have to go along with Raina's journey here. If it is like, oh shit, we already have the wreck, right? Her life has already been kind of quote unquote ruined by this. I think the moment, like there were really some really, really good comedic beats that I thought I'm sorry, I got distracted by somebody that was like,
by the motorcycle,
right, by the motorcycle that drove by,
weaving in and out of
but
traffic.
There were some really good comedic moments that I think are speak to a really interesting voice moving forward, whatever they do next. But like when she's typing out the message on her phone, and it talks about how she got a Dewey instead of a DUI. I think that's a really funny, like, kind of tension-breaking moment.
But just the final, taking that pause to type stuff out, right? And we're kind of like, okay, what are we doing? We have to sit there and just watch this.
Yeah, because
I think it's great.
You think that she's pulling up the video, right? I mean, that's what I thought she was doing.
I know. No, she's just typing away, and we just have to. But you just have to like sit in that moment of kind of silence between these two women too.
and then when she finally does drink again, and it's just running down. Okay. So how did you feel about the manipulation? I guess if that you want to characterize it like as that of the wife making her reenact the and also then to get kind of beaten and pummeled by these. I guess because everyone at that point is drunk except for Sabrina, her artist assistant.
Yeah.
But they're all punching her, and then she's like laughing and like kind of like crying and saying they're having a good time.
Right. Well, because I think it became, but I don't know if that's what the gallerist / performance artist / trad wife, whatever, intended, but it almost became a kind of like therapeutic, cathartic moment for her to go reenact this.
Right.
And then the kind of pummeling, right? I mean, the one girl doesn't like her really.
Right.
Right? What's her name? Annabelle?
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, Raina does not like Annabelle. So there's this kind of frustration between them too. And I think Raina has been told a couple times that she's kind of an awful person.
Right.
And then this is them saying, I mean, in a way it's a tension release for them as well, to sort of fake pummel because she's a shitty person.
Right.
And then it breaks that kind of tension and releases her, I think, in a different way. I was going to say something else and now I fucking forget. But yeah.
I think there's some really, like, another thing that this film does that I think that's interesting are the visuals that it gives you.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, the little conceits that aren't overly explained, like with the clowns and just kind of the bizarre nature of the performance piece that she's putting on with her, like, sea monster outfit. And I think, like, I think a lesser film would try to, like, incorporate those more and like I said, to try to spend too much time on justifying why they were there.
Right.
Now you could also then argue the flip of that is like, oh, you're just adding these here as just weird shit for weird shit's sake. But I don't think I really don't think that's not what's happening here.
No, because I mean, like, she's got this costume, and she's already like, don't touch anything in my house. She's already being weird about letting two in the house,
right?
And so Raina is just looking to like poke any hornet's nest she can, right? I mean, this is the first time she's been out. Excuse me. And she wants to stir stuff up again, right? And that's who she is,
right?
It's like my voice just stopped working.
Our podcast listeners rejoice.
I know, everyone's like, fucking finally. Get this guy to shut up. But then that costume is like, again, such a low stake thing. So when she puts paint on it, everyone's kind of like, is it that big of a deal? Like, And then the other girl like throws it on and puts like a bird mask on and just runs around, which I thought was fucking funny.
It was a fish mask, but okay.
Was it?
Yes,
right,
fish
mask.
She was a sea monster, yeah.
Well, she could have been a sea monster.
She could have been a bird sea monster, yes,
you know?
but it was a fish mask.
And then you just see her outside the window, kind of like bouncing around in it, which I thought was just really funny.
I liked Annabelle's character altogether. Like, where she's like, I don't know if you and Raina are together. I just love Mitch. I'm in love with him. Like, not being able to like pick up any of the clues at all.
No clue. And I love how she says to me, like, maybe you could tell Mitch, but like, in a cool way.
In a cool way.
That I'm like so in love with it. Yeah, she was a good character.
And I do think like. One, I want to go to a bar called Sassafras.
I know.
But I do think also the like you called her a trad wife, but the relationship between those two seems way less than husband and wife. That is like really needs examining, but how they behave amongst one another. Because like his wife has the most subtle like journey in this film.
Yeah.
Because she obviously is a supporter and part of his act. And then when she gets home, she's like, I don't want anybody in my house.
And he's like, show him around.
Right, and he's like, yeah, show him around. And she's like, okay, I guess we're showing people around. And then, she has the whole has to explain the clowns and like then the costumes and everything else. And then after all like kind of transpires and this girl has basically hit on her husband,
right, and like tried to ruin her shit,
right,
yeah,
and you don't really know that maybe she does or she doesn't know, but like I think Robert probably tells her that, oh yeah, Raina came in the bathroom and thought I was going to have sex with her. Then like after all of it, Annabelle puts the suit on and she's like, I've got to, you've got to take it off. And they kind of accost her. And she's like, and I thought Raina's comment about was so good. It's like, we're gonna take it off consensually.
But she almost becomes, Cleo is her name.
Yes.
The character's name. But she also, becomes kind of a therapist healer at the end too.
Right.
But
also she's reluctant to do that. She's like, I just want this to go. Why are you still here?
Right.
And like, you don't need like, yeah, you've already like ruined or come close to ruining my performance piece. Just leave it out the door. And Raina, as she's done the entire night, keeps insisting upon herself.
She does what she wants
to be in places where she's just not really wanted. And yeah, that piece of like, okay, and it seems like she sees an opportunity to kind of like want to take out her frustrations and also like I don't know, give Raina relief in the same tone of in the same minute of like also giving her grief, right? I mean,
right.
And kind of displaying to her a part of what's what happened. Yeah. I don't know. I thought that so there's really some like interesting complexities here that like also then like because the director talks about how this was improvised in a sense, or like some of the script was improvised, put it down, and of course it was an 11-day shoot, and that's a really interesting time to sell Kool-Aid pickles at 11:34.
You never know. People are out walking around. They need Kool-Aid pickles. It's like
right,
and you just never know like when a hankering's gonna hit.
Right. Yeah. Make your buck, I guess. If you got pickles and you got Kool-Aid. someone's going to want to buy them.
So despite all of the things that we really like about this film, right? And I think there's a lot that we do like and we think is like doing well.
Right.
This is really just a festival film, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be derogatory. I mean, if the director's listening, I just mean this is almost like a kind of like look what I can do sort of thing, like I just said with like almost like the audition tape for.
Right. And like we talk about the films that we saw at DIFF and the ones that we particularly liked, but the year prior to DIFF, the last time we went, there were more films that were festival films that were just bad, right? I mean, that we saw that we didn't like,
right?
And I think some of the ones that we talked to and some of the ones, I think those are festival film. I think Eastern Western's probably a festival film.
Yeah.
Like I think that and I think this is a festival film because I think it's just because it is so low budget and it's so quick. This is a calling card to see what else you can do, right?
Right.
Where if you take something like Obex, which was probably filmed in the same kind of time frame over a certain period of time, though, I mean, like it's stretched out. Obex is a much more polished film from a much more polished filmmaker,
right?
Who also then takes his films to get distribution and things like, and also get funding for future follow-on projects. I think this is a calling card for all of these people to then go on and do other things. Yeah. Which is not to say that this film couldn't find an audience. And I do think it's fun. Like I mean, like this, like if you find this on Amazon Prime or Tubi or whatever, however this will end up. But I don't see a huge bidding war for something like this. But I would encourage people to see it. Because of like I said, I don't think it's a great film, but I do think all of the parts, I think the script, I think the acting, I think the comedy are really, really solid, really good. And I'm excited to see what all of these people do next for sure, especially the director and the
main actor,
the main actress, yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's one of those things where you watch enough of these. If you go to enough festivals, especially these smaller festivals, you see these films that that you'll never see again, because unless you're like tracking them, right?
Right.
And Oak Cliff is kind of pretty notorious. Like this would be one of the festivals where this happens a lot, where it's people who are making these films as a kind of a passion project, and they're really talented people. But sometimes really talented people don't obviously always get,
or it's a stepping stone to the next project.
Right. And that next project may be a TV show or producing on somebody else's thing, or
just something with a little bit bigger budget.
Right. Kind of yeah. So like with the party people, with Lindsay and Joey, which I think that will find an audience.
Yeah.
But those guys do things to fund their other things. Right. So I mean they're taking TV shows and things like that. So so party people won't ever hurt them. Like it's not like they're not.
Why would party people hurt them anyway?
Right.
So it's fucking great.
It is fucking
so
great.
I mean it's.
But yeah, if you happen to come across Lockjaw, then I would highly recommend to stop down for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah.
It's and to check it out because it is a lot of fun.
It's a good time.
It is a good time, and tomorrow we will see.
We got a full day tomorrow.
A sheet ton.
Full day.
In fact,
tomorrow.
Driving While Screaming tomorrow probably won't be enough to cover all of the things.
No.
So we may have to be picky about what we talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is fine. I'm okay with being picky, and we can obviously come back to talking to Scream and Drive other things, on other days, or just Scream about films we saw here while not driving.
I tend to just scream.
Right.
Like whenever.
I was like realizing that we didn't really say that there was a roadside stand like selling Kool-Aid pickles at 11:30.
You're right.
We're just talking about like, hey, Kool-Aid pickles. That's a really
people
bizarre
are like, what are they really talking about? That we know these guys meander, but Jesus fucking Christ, where did Kool-Aid pickles come from? All right, kiddos, it's late, so until tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
And keep screaming.
Yeah.
And pick Kool-Aid pickles.
No, you buy Kool-Aid pickles.
Oh, but you don't. We can't Kool-Aid. But you. If
you're not gonna make your own Kool-Aid pickles. He's not selling the ingredients to make your Kool-Aid pickles.
No, but I'm using Kool-Aid as a verb, so you can go Kool-Aid your pickle.
But you said pick Kool-Aid pickle. I'm so confused. Like,
right,
why would you say
pickles.
that? Right, Kool-Aid pickles. Right. Look, find a roadside stand near you that sells Kool-Aid pickles and choose the flavor you want.
Or send us a self-addressed stamped envelope and
Win $5.
and we will send you your own
Which may not
ASCII
cover-
photo, ASCII version of your photo and a Kool-Aid
And a Kool-Aid pickle, which may not cover the Kool-Aid pickle itself.
Probably not. It probably won't.
I mean, it's 20.
I don't know. Just how much do Kool-Aid pickles cost?
I don't know. This is
You
not
wanna
my
go back and
neighborhood.
check it
Yeah,
out?
let's go. I know how much like roadside. Well, never mind. Okay, that's enough. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,